All right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I think this is episode 12 of Ask Me Anything Live. I think it's episode 12 right here. Anyway, hi everyone. Welcome. Just reading question here. Okay, we will kick it off right now. Mark Turpin, the a huge cheerleader of improv. If you don't know Mark, great improviser, great guy. Good to have him ask this question. He says, "Hi, Jay. Merry Christmas." Well, Merry Christmas also to you, my friend. Says I won't be around for the AMA, so I want to ask you what are your improv plans for 2021? Oh, Mark, great. Thank you so much. I think it's going to be virtual, honestly, and I think it's going to be virtual for a while now. I think we are just getting into a situation where like in the States we're starting to get the vaccine right now, but I think I think it's going to be a while before we get to be back in theaters, or at least I should say for me personally, I think it's going to be a while for me before I'm comfortable getting back into a theater around a bunch of other people. Um, my personal health history is that I have asthma. I have had many bouts of bronchitis, sinusitis, a lot of respiratory issues. I've had pneumonia actually several times. And so for me, I'm not keen into jumping into a situation where I can uh, have it affect my respiratory system. And also, I've got two kids who are young and they are virtually schooling as well. And so, yeah, I'm very concerned about, that situation right now. And to be honest, my significant other, their ex has undergone a heart transplant recently. I mean, like a decade or more ago, I believe it's that long. But they are still at risk, and so if heaven forbid if something happens, and I contracted COVID and I passed that along, and it got to them, it would not be a good situation. So I'm looking at this as like how exciting to be able to develop a new style of improvising and still continue to work and teach and play in the virtual world. I was very lucky in December, I'll be honest. Very lucky because I was hired out to do a bunch of corporate holiday improv shows, and those went really well. And very excited to be able to do not just do those, but to be able to employ my friends as well. That's something that actually I'm more excited about the fact that I could get them work than actually having to work myself. I'm really excited that I was able to help with that, and so there are some more shows as a result of that, or the group I'm working with, the company that's been hiring us, they've been able to book us on some additional shows in January, and hopefully that will continue for 2021. But I'm excited about what's to come. I think we're turning the corner, at least here in the States. It seems like things are starting to slowly turn the corner, and vaccines are becoming available. And my significant other works in the healthcare field and was able to get the first of two of the injections for the vaccine yesterday. And oh, I feel so bad because they can't lift their arm up. They can only lift their arm about this high right now because of the vaccine. So, in one way, it's like fingers crossed, good news that we are turning the corner right here. Eventually, we will be able to get back into theaters at some point. But right now, I'm honestly, Mark, I'm enjoying 2020, and I'm enjoying what's going to be happening in 2021, and looking at it like, hey, once we're back in a theater, awesome, in front of people, that's tremendous. But I'm in no rush personally to get back into that space right there. I'm actually enjoying this. I'm enjoying how the world has become smaller, and we'll be able to connect with more people throughout the world than we ever have before. And Mark is one of those people that I was not in, I was not connected to before this, and now I've been connected with him. We've played some online as well. Super talented, loves improv, and a really just a joy to play with. So that's it. I think also my as we talk about this, I think part of my goals over 2021 is also just to embrace, my style even more, and still like expand the tools I have. Like I'm looking to take more classes, which I've benefited from tremendously. I took a class with Monica Gaga and Stephen Davidson, uh, and his company is, I don't want to get this wrong. It's Is that it? Impromiscus. Yes, I did not want to get that wrong. But I took a class with them about diversity and inclusion in improv, and it was just so enlightening. Such a great workshop. And not only them, but they brought in guest instructors and guest experts each week to talk to us about different ways that we can ensure that our classrooms are safe, and a safe place for growth and inclusion. And it was tremendous. I could not recommend it enough. So I'm looking forward also to taking more classes as we go. I'm looking forward to setting up some more uh, workshops for friends of mine too, and kind of, looking at this as an opportunity for me to, help other folks in improv get to know, and even grow in this ecosystem right here. So one of the workshops I'm working on right now is I want to bring Laura and Rick Hall, and some of you might know Laura from Whose Line Is It Anyway, where she's one of the music directors right there, the resident one, I believe. And then Rick Hall is a Second City for years, just a tremendously talented improviser as well, and two of the nicest people in the world. And they substitute taught for my group Perpetual Notion that I direct, who's their group of folks, mostly over 50 out of Connecticut. And so Laura and Rick were nice enough to volunteer, and not volunteer. I mean, obviously got paid, but they um, worked with my group, and my group just loved it. So one of the things I want to work on for early 2021 is setting up a musical improv class featuring Laura and Rick, who are two amazing teachers. You get two teachers uh, for just a reasonable, it's like two for the price of one, and they're just a knowledge. Both of them had no like formal improv training, because at the time when they were coming up, there were not that many options for schools. There was like Players Workshop run by Joe Forsberg. I think that was the main training center. Second City really didn't have a bustling and thriving training center. So they kind of learned it as they went. And definitely for Laura, there was no one like teaching you how to do music improv and accompany improv and sketch show. Like you basically had Fred Kaz, I believe, and Ruby Streak. I think those were the two main ones at Second City. You just kind of observed what they did and then did it yourself. So in one way, I think that's a very powerful way to learn how to do it. It's just kind of observe and then do it yourself. So I'm looking to maybe offer some more classes in 2021 that features other folks as well. And I love getting friends of mine work, and as long as there's a need and a demand for it, and people want to take those classes, for sure I want to connect those and set those up. But I want to look at 2021 too and say like, oh, I want to embrace what I do while adding to my tool belt for things I do right there. Hi, Emma. Merry Christmas to you, and thank you so much. Thanks for all you bring. And she's part of Liverpool Comedy Improv, and great to have you right there. Oh, and Roseanne. Hi, Roseanne Nelson. So, Roseanne Nelson, I had the pleasure of working with in Perpetual Notion, and also I taught a workshop, and this is how she actually connected me to that group that she was a part of. And I loved Roseanne Nelson. I think she's just tremendously talented, and she says. Well, and before I get to that, Adrian McKinder says, "Merry Christmas, you filthy animal." And I'm going to get to Roseanne's question in just a moment. But Adrian McKinder is, honestly, one of my favorite people to play with. I think a guy who also didn't have like a ton of like training in improv, like going through training centers and stuff, but just has a sharp comedic mind and super fun to play with. And we were both in Copenhagen at part of a theater there a few years ago, and he was like one of my first, he's the person I went to say, "Hey, I got this idea, let's play in the show." And he's like, "Okay." And he can play like very slow, patient improv. He can play very quick improv. Just a great sharp mind. And he has a book coming out about Stan Lee in March, I believe it is. It's called Stan Lee: How Marvel Changed the World. And if you are a comic book fan, I think that's a great book for you. And even if not, it really talks more about, his Stan Lee's journey through, basically redefining American entertainment. If you think about it, especially now with the way things Marvel, everything Marvel. So check out Adrian's book that's coming out right now. But Roseanne, getting to your question, she says, "What is your definition of status of a character?" Oh, interesting ways to trade status in a scene. Oh, Roseanne, that's a great question. We talked earlier about like um, uh, what I wanted to work on this year, and status is one of those things. And actually, Stephen Davidson was teaching a class on status with Jonathan Nguyen, and I wasn't able to take it because I had a work conflict come up last minute. I was really bummed because I was looking forward to seeing and learning more about how to play status. And status is like, it's the standing in the world, right? So it might be like your societal standing, your professional standing, your relationship. If you look at your own personal life, you have many different status. Sometimes in your own family, you have a different status. Like I play a different status with my significant other than I do with my kids, right? And sometimes with my kids, the status flip flops back and forth. Like if I'm like my daughter, who has always been very independent, and my son are very different and wonderful. A lot of similar ways, but a lot of difference. Like usually I'm high status, but when my daughter says, I'm going to run out into traffic, which, she loves running. And so when she was younger, I had to keep a hand on her. But if she went into traffic, she would then adopt high status right away. If you look at something like The Simpsons, Mr. Burns might be high status in his professional life and most of his life, but in some situations he actually becomes low status, right? Probably the highest status in The Simpsons probably is Bart. He's probably the highest status. Homer is definitely low status. Maggie is probably higher status. So if you look at that, it's like, you know, I think that's a way to look at status. A classic status relationship would be like um, jester king would be one, or servant master. Those are like the definition of status. Like those are the typical ones we used to do. And what's fun is, you know, if you look at high status, if you flip it then, so you look at a movie like Arthur, starring Dudley Moore, and then later remade with Russell Brand. Dudley Moore, even though he was the millionaire, he was low status in that relationship, and his butler, his servant, was high status in that situation. So you had a low status position, the servant, who actually was high status in their relationship. So I think status is a very interesting thing to play with, and you can flip that status, and sometimes it's like it's a fun exercise to play interviewer, interviewee, and you have people trade off status. So the interviewer starts as high status, the interviewee low status. And it's really fun to change your body physicality, your body position, and flip the status. So it might start with the high status of tell me why we should hire you for this job. And the person being interviewed who's playing low status might say, well, I don't know. I can't really talk about it. And then you flip the high status, and that low status character might now say something like, I can't talk about it because, I worked for the CIA and I was a covert operative. And so you're flipping the status, you're changing where they are in the scene right there. And it's also sometimes how you see yourself as status as well. But I think status is so underutilized. And my friend Nick John said, either make an big, strong emotional choice, or flip your status in a scene. And those are two ways to really, goose a scene, as it will. Yeah, and Jess, thank you for that. Stephen and Jonathan's class on status is amazing. They bring such good insights into it. So that's one thing I want to develop more, because I have a somewhat of a limited knowledge of status, but I'd like to be able to explain it more concretely. And so that's something that, I think we can all improve on in playing status. And from my experience, people in the East, like in India, they do tend to play status more, maybe because of the experience with a caste system, maybe lends itself more to that, or experience with, I don't know, learning from Johnstone or something like that. Because I think Johnstone plays status. Keith Johnstone in his book Improv, and in his teachings, talks more about status than, let's say, we do in the States right there. So that is that is part of the status conversation right there. Yeah, so Roseanne, let me know if that helps trade status right there. Like if people look at status, and a lot of times when you're told to play status and you play high status, it's people being jerks. And that's not high status at all. People yelling is not high status. Yelling and demanding are very low status. Commanding respect is high status. Demanding respect is lower status, if you think about it that way. So I have people play status and they always gravitate towards, I'm mean, I'm ordering you around, and that's not a high status move. If you've ever been in a room with someone who's very high status, and I've been in a room with Indra Nooyi, who is the former president and CEO of Pepsi Cola International, once the #4 most powerful woman in the world. And when she walks in a room, she knows everyone's looking at her. She's not being mean. She's not calling, barking orders. She's just as very calm, actually. So I find playing high status people who are calm very, very reassuring right there. So I think that's an interesting way to play status. Like when Obama, former President Obama walks in the room, he doesn't bark out orders. He's just very calm as he walks in. You look like somebody like the current president here for the next, what is it, 18 days or 16, well, no, 26 days. Our current thief in office is very low status. Everything he does is low status, but he's got the highest status job in the world. So that's his profession's high status, the #1, probably top high status. Who he is low status. So that's a right there. That's an interesting way to look at it. Hi, Elizabeth. Merry Christmas to you, Elizabeth. Sophie, nice to see you. Thanks for coming out. Adrian, yeah, happy holidays, my friends. Bless you and everyone who are joining in right here. Good to see you. And if you have thoughts on status, yeah, feel free to put it in the chat. I know Jess commented on it. So Jess, if you wanted to add some insight from that class into the chat, that'd be wonderful right there. Yeah, so that chat also is a way for you to learn. It's not just me. I don't have any answers. I just repeat things I learned from other people, but other people who are joining here might have some wonderful thoughts on status right there. So putting it, I did a status scene with Andrew Heffler, and he was my, you know, he was, I mean, we were playing a servant master situation, and it was amazing. It was amazing. It was one of the 10 minutes with, and he's just a tremendously talented improviser, and I'll never forget that one. That was an awesome scene. I'll never forget it. Oh, Ari, also, yes, Ari at Improv Enough teaches some awesome status games and exercises. So Ari, if you're watching this, or Emma, if you remember some exercises, if you could put them in the chat, that would be really great. Yeah, Ari is, and he has experience also with status. Like I think he gravitates towards status play as well. So those are really good examples right there. And Merry Christmas, everyone, or Merry Christ, Emma. Yeah, hey, Merry Christ, everyone. Yeah, Jess, exactly. If you have genuine high status, you don't ever need to prove it or demand it. You just are that way. Also, a very a nice tool is high status. You walk in, when you sit, you walk in like you own the place. If you think about it, watching a pilot walk through an airport, they're very high status. They're not like, look at me. They don't draw attention to themselves. That's a low status move, is like, look at me. Like I want attention. That's very low status. But a pilot just walks right through an airport, like they own it. Same thing when you're playing high status character. It's like, put as much space as you can in your chair. Take up as much space as possible. It's not like this, but you're definitely like this chair. I'm going to take up as much space as I can. High status people tend to move a little bit slower, like they're gliding, and these are just simple techniques, and you can expand upon them yourselves and see what works. They tend to have eye contact. They don't break eye contact. The other person would break eye contact. They move with purpose. Low status, they're always moving. So if you want to play a low status character, always be moving or fidgeting, or try to take up as little space as possible. Like think you don't belong there. You don't deserve to be there. You don't have to say it, but you can think it right? So don't say, I don't deserve to be here, but have that thought right there. Constantly be moving or fidgeting, break eye contact a bunch, think to yourself or say things like, sorry, sorry, like that's very low status right there. So those are just some techniques to help you with status, which I think is a super fun thing to play. And I'll probably play a lot more status in this next kind of year right now as we're coming up. Hi, Philip. Love you too, brother. It's good to see you, Philip. I missed your Philoween, which I was very bummed about. He does every year. He does a Philoween, and I can't wait to. I think it's going to be on YouTube. I think it's up there. I'm not sure. If not, please put it up because it's a joy playing with you and seeing you, my friend. Yeah, Emma, exactly. Stillness and proximity. So starting to play, start to play around with proximity as far as where you are to your camera and start playing with that distance right there. Stand up, move around. Just use 2021 to experiment more with your virtual improv as you go. Take bigger risks. Philip, what makes you so lovable? Oh, Philip, you're so kind. I think it's this new haircut that my significant other gave me. Ordered clippers and trimmers online and went outside and they gave me a wonderful haircut. I'm very happy with it. I tried to help them with their hair a few months ago. It was very nerve wracking trying to help somebody with their hair right there. So that's great. Yeah, get close to the camera on Zoom. Exactly. You can status. What if you look down like this on your scene partner, right? Or what if you look up? What if you move your camera a little bit? Now you're looking up like this way or looking down. You can actually use the angles to change your status as well, which is super fun right there. Yes, face away, lean back in your chair. All those great hints, Emma. All those disinterested could be high status as well. I think it's fun to play high status characters who are not negative as well. So think about those opportunities of like, can you play a high status character that has empathy still? Because that's a really complex character. Also in a scene, if you apologize, if you're playing high status and you're being really rigid or mean and you apologize, you'll lessen your status as well. So that's another way to lessen status. Today's the day for a low status character. That phrase, today's the day I will change your status as well as you're going. Today's the day I ask him or her out on a date. Today's the day I ask for that promotion. Today's the day I ask to leave this and go out on my own. Those are all different ways of grabbing, and maintaining status right there. Jess, what really stayed with me from Stephen and Jonathan's workshop was the way they looked at status and gender. Yes, especially that for sure. I realize she tends to shy away from strong feminine characters. I don't know how to play them in a confident, high status way. Jess, exactly. Now, some of the great high status characters, especially like in films, if you look at Lauren Bacall, I think she radiates high status. If you look at the Honeymooners, that's the archetype for American situation comedies, which is high status wife, blowhard, low status husband. Like that is an archetype that they've been doing in the States for 70 years right now, based on the Honeymooners. And Audrey Meadows played a high status character, but you had to see them have love for each other. And I think that's what made it different in that situation. So playing high status, like I remember I was trying to do a high status character for a corporate job I was on. I was just being a jerk and I wasn't being high status and I couldn't get it. And then my friend Dave pulled me aside. He goes, look, you're not a jerk to these people because you're mean. You just have other people above you to answer to. And so you just need an answer. Like you're not a mean person. You've got pressure coming down on you. And that changed the way I played it. And it was such a great note that it changed the way I looked at status as well as like, being mean isn't like that's not always a high status move. So keep that in mind is like, you can, playing it in a professional way. Another thing that helped me, Jess, is like pausing in silence and letting that silence build and letting the other person talk will flip the status too. If you just wait for them to talk and they start talking, they get nervous. Now they're low status. Nervousness is a great low status place to play. Embarrassment is a really great low status, fun place to play. Vulnerable can be very low status, but it can also be very high status as well. Yes. And so that, again, Stephen Davidson is teaching some great offerings for ways to change your game based on who you've learned from before and now adding additional tools. And Jonathan Nguyen is everybody who who meets him is like, yep, that dude's brilliant. Yeah, he is. He's great. And I was introduced to Jonathan through David Escobedo, who I think is just a tremendous teacher and improviser and ally, and just one of my favorite people on this planet. He and his lovely wife Monica. Oh, Roseanne, thank you. High lovability status. Yes, Philip, please put Philoween into the chat right here. And I encourage people to watch it. Philip is just such a fun. I love playing with him because he's just a joy. He's just a joy. And I cannot 2021 to me also is focusing again on just playing with people who play with joy, because that's what I need in my life right now is I just need joy. And so finding those people and playing with them, I think it's super fun. Oh yes, Elizabeth, talk about status. UCB Sunset closed. And so that was a theater that the UCB for folk, they I think they built that space, and when it first came out, it seemed to be really big. That's the first thing I noticed about it. It was massive. It had so many classrooms and it had a huge stage, I think a couple stages, and the news came down yesterday, sadly, that they have closed, and now they only have one location. It's on Franklin in LA, and they used to have the two in LA, and then they had at 1.3 in New York. I don't think they have any theaters. UCB, I don't think they have any theaters in New York anymore, and they've got one small space on Franklin. They're fighting to keep open. So it's not to me. It's not good when, when improv theaters or theaters in general when they go under. I think theaters add such value to a neighborhood, and the arts adds such value as well. And so it's very sad that UCB closed. And I reached out to a friend of mine who taught for UCB and taught for years, taught for them out here, and before that taught in New York. And I reached out to my friend and I said, is it true? And my friend's like, what? And I said, the Sunset location's closing for UCB. And he's like, not as far as I know. And then I sent my friend the tweet that they sent out, and he was like, oh my God. So, the communication was lost a little bit, I think, even for the instructors. And I think they tried to do everything they could. And then they just realized just the mortgage is just too much. So the finances were mounting. If you can't have in-person classes and you don't know of a way to adjust to compensate for that revenue, eventually you're going to have to close, right there. Great. Yes, Philip, there it is. Philoween is in the chats. Thank you, Phil. Yeah, Lauren Bacall is high status. Jodie Foster tends to play high status characters, which are great. Julia Roberts plays high status characters, which are really great. Melissa McCarthy tends to play lower status characters, very fun and equally effective right there. But I think those are some like strong female high status. Jess, study Michelle Obama. She's wonderfully high status, radiant, energetic, kind. You can be high status and still be kind, but you're moving slower with purpose, direct eye contact. And for some of us, the status thing is hard to play because we don't play a certain type of status a lot in real life. Like people who tend to play high status characters when they first get into improv, I think they're cast in the high status roles in their personal life. I tended to play a lot of high status characters when I first got started because I was tall, and a taller, person, especially a taller man, tends to be put in those or puts themselves in those positions as well. So it's a thing of just practicing, practice until it feels comfortable. And I feel pretty confident in playing different status right now. I love playing the lower status. I think just that's comedically, it's where it's at. I think for me, improvisationally, I like playing more lower status, but if somebody puts me in a higher status position, I'll play that to the best of my ability. But Roxanne, so Roxanne Ruiz thank you for tuning in. My neighbor growing up in Glenwood, Illinois, we were neighbors for 18, 20 years and lived right next door to us. And so has seen me from a young boy all the way up until a young adult right there. Philip, what's my feeling on Silence and Scenes? Love it. It's so juicy. It just builds anticipation. And also it makes people think you know what you're talking about. And so when you want to play high status characters, add some silence, think about what's said. But I think it's great, especially in virtual. I think it's very scary, but I love playing silence and scenes. I did a silent scene with Neil Curran, and the first 8 minutes of a 10-minute piece were silent. I did one with Vanessa Anton. Both of those two are brilliant. We did a 10-minute silent scene together, and we both can, without even saying it beforehand, we both just decided at some point, we both decided in the scene, this is going to be silent. It was brilliant. So memorable. Hi, Tom. Marty's always said, yeah, Martin DeMott always said, take low status whenever given the chance. Exactly. Lose the argument quickly, take the low status. I think it's real fun to watch two people fight for low status. I don't think it's as fun watching two people fight for high status. And I think a lot of newer improvisers tend to look at scenes as competition, and they want to fight for high status. They want to fight to be right. They want to fight to have the last line. They want to get all the glory, and they want to fight to be higher status. They don't want to play the fool. I'd say, like, enjoy the low status. Make yourself the fool, not your scene partner. Enjoy doing that. When in doubt, I love that. When in doubt, low status. Amanda Blake Davis. All right, folks. So Amanda Blake Davis is one of my all-time favorite people to perform with, and one of the people I was lucky enough to give a little bit of work. You know, she played in a show we did, a corporate show right there, and I love playing with her. I just love her to pieces. I love ABD to pieces. She's great. She asked me to do this 24-hour letter to Santa's for Second City. I was part of her crew, and it was amazing. It was Celeste and Jamie and Tim and Amanda and I. We just had a blast, and it was so fun. It was so fun. She said, "What's a moment in time I like to go back and revisit?" Oh, I know a moment in time I'd love to is like any time to spend with my dad and my mom, who have both passed. But I think I'd love to do that. I'd also love to go back and revisit. ABD and I did a show where we were on a cruise ship doing a corporate gig for Wells Fargo, and this was in the 2000s, early 2000s, maybe like 2000, I don't know, 2004. And she was Marie Osmond. I was Donny Osmond, wearing wigs, and our song was "We're a Little Bit." It wasn't "A Little Bit Country, a Little Bit Rock and Roll," which was the original song. This song was "I'm a little bit country and I'm a little bit Wells Fargo." Yeah, that's right, folks. So I think, and I actually had fun doing those gigs. So I think ABD, that's a moment in time I would certainly like to go back and revisit. But I think my first, honestly, any chance I could, to go back and like revisit being with my mom and dad, because they're gone now. And maybe at times like showing more appreciation, or, showing that I love them more. My brother sent me this wonderful text last week, and he's like, "Hey, I just want to say I'm proud of you." My brother's 7 years older. And I was like, "Oh my God, thank you." He goes, "Yeah, he said, I went through life not knowing if dad was proud of me." And I was like, "Oh my God, no, he was so proud of you." Like I said, he was more proud of you than he was of me. And I don't mean that he wasn't proud of me. My dad was very proud of me, but my dad, because my brother was the oldest, my dad, I think, had a special place in his heart for my brother and his wife and my brother's two kids. And so my dad got to be really a grandfather with my brother's kids, and then my sister's kids as well. My sister had a son while my dad was still alive, and then a daughter. My dad never got to see either of my kids because he had passed away by then. So, tell the people who are near you, reach out to them, tell them you love them, let them know, make it normal, especially men, to say that to your friends and to your loved ones. Like, make that normal, be examples. I'm really aware of the example for my kids. So I want them to see that I'm okay with, crying or making mistakes, or once a week we sit around the dinner table. It's like, let's celebrate the things we made a mistake about. And we talk about it, we celebrate it. And it is such a good practice that we started to get into. So yeah, thank you for that question, ABD. I mean, that is just a wonderful question. It's like, what's a moment in time I'd like to go back and revisit? But yeah, I think anything to do with like my parents, because they're not around, I think I'd love to revisit any of those moments. Um, Oh, Roxanne, yeah, give my best to your parents. Oh, tell them I love them. And I love you too, Roxanne and Paula and your whole entire family, Veronica, everyone there. It's so great to see you. I was very lucky growing up. I grew up in a neighborhood, lower, I think it was like lower middle class, but we had so many friends in the neighborhood. Like it was like a bunch of, everybody knew each other, and the parents kind of helped raise you as well. Like you could not get away with anything in that neighborhood. So yeah, it's always great to see Roxanne. It's great to see you. Please give my best to your family. I mean, they helped raise me as well. And it was great. Yeah. So I was very blessed to grow up next to the Ruiz family. It was awesome. Hi, Jasmine. Thank you so much. Oh, thanks. Yeah, thank you for saying that about me being upbeat and generous. I think, once this pandemic hit, my attitude was like, I want to give back as much as I can because I had the time. So I ended up teaching a lot of and giving free classes, and I want to continue that. I want to continue to do that in 2021. I'm actually writing a book that I'm still writing. That is okay that it's not finished, but I am still writing that book about using improv to help with life more. I think there's two books I'm going to write, or I am writing. One is like technical improv stuff, and then the other is like how you can use improv tools to help your life get better. Because I do believe, and this comes from Martin DeMott, who Tom mentioned earlier, if everyone took one improv class, the world would be a better place. And I truly believe that. And so I'm hoping to take up that mantle. And now with virtual improv, it's becoming possible that everyone could take one improv class. Yes, Jess, Jodie Foster, very high status, very much so. She has moments of being vulnerable, but she is a high status character right there. I think high status too is like, expect to be a badass at what you do. Like, don't brag about it, but in a scene, if you're a surgeon, be a great surgeon. Like, you don't have to say I'm a great surgeon, look at this, but you could just pretend you are. So pretend you're competent, and not just competent, badass at stuff will make you more of a high status character right there. How to get better when you don't get the opportunity to do so? I guess, Tom, I'm not sure. Can you expand on that more in the chat? Like, what do you mean how to get when you don't get the opportunity? I think there are opportunities all around in order for you to get better. And also the question is, what is better to you, right? What is better? Do you mean more comfortable playing characters? And if so, well, walk around your house and talk to yourself in a character. Pick up something, pick up glasses and go, excellent. You're almost finished with your test. When you're finished, you can put them down, bring them up to the front. You've got a few minutes left. Just start picking up stuff around you and go, oh, okay, cool. I got a pen. I'm a writer. Okay, all right. What today? I'm not going to let this writer's block control me. I control the writer's block. Let me grab some whiskey. Right. So you can work on your characters that way. You want to work on status, be aware of it when you're in different situations with different people. If you want to work on changing your status, call a friend of yours who you haven't called in a while and be vulnerable and play a different status. Like, there are always ways you can add skills to your tool belt. So Tom, I'd love to hear your thoughts on what you mean by get better when you don't have the opportunity to do so. Also, look, man, there are a bunch of people just commenting right now. You go to improv jams, there are improv jams throughout the world happening at all hours. So there's an opportunity to practice improvising. And if you're talking about getting better as a person, I think there's opportunities for that as well. But yeah, I think there's always ways, if you want to get more experience or get more comfortable, there's ways out there. Oh, thank you, Philip. Yes, we will one day see each other in person right there. Oh, Roxanne, your mom. Oh my goodness. It's so many good memories in Glenwood, Illinois. I had so many good memories. I also knew I didn't want to be there, meaning I wanted to go into Chicago because it was a big city. I wanted to experience that life, but I was very excited. And I look back now, I was like, wow, I was pretty lucky to grow up where I grew up at the time I did. So I was very lucky. And to have you as neighbors was awesome. I do feel like Mr. and Mrs. Ruiz were like second parents to me for sure. And I think there were times where like I would come home. I remember I came home from school, and if I was sick and nobody was home and next door was home, I could always go next door. So I'm very lucky. Philip, I can't keep quiet during this silent scene. Yeah. I mean, Sometimes you can't. It's okay. Eventually, there are times, because if you look at your life, most of your life you're silent. Most of your life you're silent. You sleep, and that's like a third of your life. And then when you're eating, you're also silent for a lot of that. So it's okay. It just takes practice, and it takes like squashing that urge to talk, realizing you're going to be okay. But if you can't talk, if you have to talk, that's cool too, man. Whatever, whatever works, whatever brings you the most fun. um Choose to be less cranky. Yeah, I think for sure in general, like, as improvisers, feel less put upon in scenes, or less making the default to be angry or mad at your scene partner. Just make the choice not to do that, to look at them like, oh, that's a great valid choice right there. And I think that will change the way you play. um, yeah, low status, right, Tom? Low status does get more focus in a scene for sure. Um, yeah, I have so many. Maybe I'll do one. Ask me anything about corporate improv and sketch, and I will tell you. Maybe one day I'll tell you about when I was part of a. Hey, hi, what's up, y'all? We're the HDL cholesterol, and we're here to say thanks for not letting your levels fall. Like, I was a rapping cholesterol for a corporate gig for a pharmaceutical company. So great. So ABD, maybe I'd want to relive that. It was me, Randy Smock, Eric Lindbergh, and then Lori McLean was singing the hook. And I, by far, of the three dudes, I had the most rhythm. And I was like, I'm going to sell this thing. But man, in front of a bunch, it was like a national sales conference for their reps. Oh my goodness, for their pharmaceutical sales reps, we came on stage and did that. Awesome. Yes, and Philip, be an example. Exactly. Be the type of person you want to play with. And I would say, get rid of any expectations. I know some people are like, I want to be the best. I want to get great at this. Get rid of those, honestly. Enjoy the moment. There's no enjoy the moment, folks. And I think everybody talks about that. Just enjoy the moment. Hi, Shirley. Oh, Shirley, thank you. You're an inspiration as well. Thank you for that. That's very kind of you. Um, yeah, exactly, Elizabeth. Her use of high and low status in those scenes are just tremendous. What's fun too is uh what's fun about playing status is playing different status within scenes. Like, and I think that's super fun. I think like losing your shit in anger is fun if it's directed at something that turns you low status. Like getting so angry at that chair that you can't sit in makes you look the fool. And I think that's a low status move that's really great right there. Not on a team, people to play with an audience. Okay, Tom, great. So Tom, there are all of those at your disposal. Like it's not obviously going to be like, in a theater. So I think getting rid of those expectations right there. I think getting rid of those expectations of having it be the way it is will be one step closer to enjoying this more. There's there are tons of people to play with, man. Go to jams, reach out to somebody in this chat right now, send them a message and say, hey, I'd like to do a scene with you. It doesn't even have to be live over Facebook or anything. You can just get together virtually and do it. But I think there are people to reach out to. And now if you've had experience being in a group that, like I've been in several groups. Now is a great time to reach out to people in the group and say, hey, do you guys want to get together? Do you all want to get together? And let's do a show. We haven't performed in 10 years. Let's do it right now. So I think there are ways to make it work. And that's the thing is, as an improviser, we have to look at it like, how do we make this work? How do we make this work? Yes, I could talk to myself all day and play characters. Awesome. Go to some of these jams, my friend. There are free jams happening all over. There are cheap drop-ins too. $5, £5, $10, £10. There are cheap options as well, but there are also free options. So reach out, Tom. You've got friends from back in the day too. Reach out to them. Use this as an opportunity to say, hey, 2021, I want to get back to doing more improv. When's the last time you did a scene? Let's do one together. So take the opportunity to be proactive and reach out to some of those folks right there. Yes, Shirley, improv has given us sanity in an insane time. It's prepared us for something we couldn't prepare for. It's prepared us for the unknown. There is a term, it's called VUCA, which is volatility, uncertainty, complexity, ambiguity. It was used in the military, and now it's like a corporate term. And I think improv is the best weapon to have against that VUCA, which we're in the midst of right now, this volatility, this uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. So improv, again, is a skill to help navigate these crazy times. It's a bright light in a dark time right now. Yeah, Jess, absolutely. Tom, please do this. Go to the free, she does Gloss Up Improv, and it's over in the UK, and you will love it. And her and Seki run this, and they're great at it. But please do that. Take advantage of these opportunities. Just say yes, right? Just say yes. Be like, great, I'm going to connect with you. And then have that Zoom link there. And when you can pop in, pop in. But Jess and Seki are both awesome, warm, wonderfully brilliant, talented teachers. I cannot emphasize taking that enough right there. Yes, Roseanne, have been reminded, Jay, I would love to see some of the fantasy pairings. That's something that's going to happen in 2021. Maybe we'll call it that. We'll call it fantasy pairings or something like that. Let's all remind him, or you can make new suggestions. Dave Rosowski and Andy Heffler. Yep, I did that scene with Andy. I'll never forget it. That 10-minute scene. It's great. Palermo and Adam Cawley. I love it. Yes, let us connect those folks right now. And in fact, Dave Rosowski just sent me a message as we're talking now. So I'm going to reach out to him. I haven't done a 10-minute with Rosowski. And he and I are going to do one. We played a bunch, but we haven't done a 10-minute one. Dave Rosowski was my second improv teacher ever. I love playing with Dave. The first time I played with him, very intimidated because he went from a teacher and then I played with him. But now I just love it. And I love playing with him because he has his style. And his style, if you ever take a class with Dave, he's like, oh, fuck the rules, fuck yes and all that stuff, which is great. I have my style, and we still are able to get along and play very well together. I just love Dave to pieces. I think he's great. So, yeah. Angela, yeah, I hope it helped. Hey, oh, great. Stephen, yes. Good. Thank you for that. Good to see you right there. And let's see. Thank you, Angela. Yeah, again, just things I've cultivated from other people. Steph de Wagner, thinking of, speaking of great improvisers, she's been doing Comedy Sports now down in Houston. I knew her in Chicago. I love Steph a ton. She's great. Another, talk about somebody who play high status very well. She plays high status feminine and male characters all the time. Remember how much fun we had doing Beneath the Music? Oh, she wrote this. It was Beneath the Music. It was, she directed this. I think Nick Ellis wrote it, and it was a parody of Behind the Music. And it was just so much fun. And she was such a great director in that process. I loved it. It was so great. I had a ton of fun doing that. And actually, there was a band. I was the drummer, but I got kicked out. So, which was again a great evil, low status character to play. I loved playing that. I didn't have a lot of experience. I wasn't really cast a lot of times in that role, and so I loved it. I ate it up. And we used some stuff from my hometown, including Roxanne. We used Glenwood School for the Boys as a place that I actually was from, and it was like a place that these wayward youths and orphans in my hometown of Glenwood, they lived. And so that was part of my backstory, which was like super fun. So many great jokes in that. I remember too. Nick Ellis, it was just a great comedy writer. He's someone that I think just, has a great comedic mind right there. Oh, Jasmine, thank you for that. That's very kind of you. What's the best way to help keep you above water? Keep who above water? Jess, do you mean in general, how to keep people above water, or how to keep me personally? Thank you for asking that. Right now, and I keep reminding myself, I'm in no immediate danger. Take everything moment to moment, day to day, minute to minute, second to second, everything changes. So I have to just keep reminding myself, take a breath, everything changes, because my brain will say, you're in trouble. Your profession, people look at like a glorified hobby. It's the first thing to go. People are cutting that left and right. You're not going to survive. That's what my brain tells me, but my brain is lying. So right now, I'm doing great at this moment in time. I'm in no immediate danger. I'm very fortunate. I have a roof over my head. I'm able to still get work right now, which is tremendous. So thank you for asking that. I might do a Patreon thing. I just don't know what to do with Patreon. Patreon is a site here in the States where like you help support people creating content, and you become like subscribers. So it's like, hey, for $5 a month, you get X, Y, and Z. And for $10 a month, and you help people create content by subscribing to their Patreon page. Like I've looked into that. I just don't know what to do with it yet. So I might do Patreon. But yeah, anytime classes, be on the lookout. I do them. I post them on Facebook. So taking a class, I think helps. But yeah, Any of that helps. Yeah, breathe, take a breath, Shirley. It's like breathing is such, I mean, it also goes on stage as well, where it's like, all right, let me just take a breath right here. Um, um, Before I respond, let me just take a breath, and that can help me right there. And sometimes taking a breath, or I have to get up and walk away, something like that, I think is tremendous to help deal with the uncertainty and anxiety. And here's another thing I learned, and I put it in the chat now. This is the 5 4 3 2 1 method, which helps me with anxiety and helps like maintaining focus and being present. It's like acknowledge 5 things you see around you, and then what are 4 things you can touch right near you? What are 3 things you can hear, 2 things you can smell, and 1 thing you can taste? That keeps the anxiety, a tool to help with anxiety, and it also keeps you present right here. And when anxiety pops up, just go, "Oh, there you are, anxiety monster." Oh, hi, Pam, or whatever you want to call it. Good to see you. I expected you to be here. I'm not going to try and fight you. You're part of who I am. You're anxiety. You're my little anxiety monster. I'm still going to do the thing I was going to do, but I expected you to show up. And I think that's a lesson I learned from Bill Hader, who posted about that. He's an actor in the States who was on a sketch show called SNL, which is a comedy sketch show, and it's very popular and people try to get there, especially improvisers. And so he mentioned that, which I think was very helpful. Hi, Laura, who is now in Denmark, who's a she's a nuclear physicist, right? Laura, I think that's your title, nuclear physicist. She said, feel free to not answer if you don't want to for some reason. Sometimes I feel down. Can you recommend anything so that I can avoid bringing this negative energy to scenes? Example, I'm having a bad day. Perhaps there's some kind of mental exercise that can help me leave that behind before hopping into a scene besides typical warm up. Love it. I love this question, Laura. First thing, yeah, the warm up to me is to get me out of anything that's happened into this present moment here. And sometimes the warm up for me is talking to someone. Sometimes it's zip zap zop. Sometimes it's running around, things like that. A couple of things that will help. One is just acknowledge the fact that you're just not feeling good. It's like, oh, I'm feeling real negative right now. Write it down, say it out loud. That's the first thing. It's not to try to fight, but just to try to acknowledge it. Another thing is watch what you eat and drink. If I have like a lot of sugar, or sometimes caffeine, that can affect how I play and where I am negative, on the negative scale right there. Another is the breathing thing, is like, just take a breath, close your eyes, and just for 5 minutes, just allow the thoughts to happen. Don't try to control them, and just have them right there. I journal sometimes and I write down how I'm feeling. And then sometimes I say, okay, is that a lie I'm telling myself? It usually is. So I'll write that down. Thing that happens that helps me sometimes too, physical exercise. Like sometimes if I just walk or run, whatever, sometimes I just walk briskly around the block, that helps. Sometimes if I squeeze my hands and then shake out my fingers and do that a bunch of times, it gets rid of that anxiety right there. Anxiety and fear kind of travel the same path as excitement. So it's all this type of energy. And sometimes your body doesn't know what to do with it. Sometimes I turn on music, and it might be like, I might be in a bummed mood and I put on real sad music that makes me cry as well, but that's a little bit cathartic. Sometimes I put on what's my favorite movie, or not movie, what's my favorite music to listen to. And for me, for those of you who know my musical taste, I love Beastie Boys. So I will put on different, there are Beastie Boys songs that are like Sabotage, that I get to just scream and yell, and it's like I can just rock out to that. There's some like Root Down, which is more like funk and a groove, and I can do that as well. Sometimes I put on like Time to Get Ill, which is just a silly goofball, and it brings me back to when I first heard it. I was 17, and so I'm like, I'll listen to that and I'm like, what's the time? It's time to get ill. What's the time? It's time to get ill. What's the time? It's time to get ill. Now, what's the time? And I'll just launch into that rap. I'll either play it or just sing it. Music helps change my mood as well. So those are just a couple of things, like for me, getting my heart rate up changes my mood and adds more of a positive element to it. Listening to music also changes my mood. I might listen to Das Effects because I think that song is just great. They Want Effects, Das Effects. I try to do that. Sometimes I'll put on something that makes me laugh, and that changes my mood as well. So I think those are some of the tools, but definitely I have to watch what I eat and drink. And then sometimes, honestly, I talk to the people in my group and I go, I've had a real shitty day. I don't know if I can get out of it right now. I'm in a bad place right now. I just want everyone to know that. My team has helped me get out of that mood as well, just by how me saying it and putting it, bringing it out to the light, announcing it, that sometimes makes things feel better. But if you have other thoughts, people watching it, how else, if you're feeling down, can you avoid bringing the negative energy into the scenes? How is that? And sometimes it's like you can't avoid it. So you might just bring a negative energy in the scene. But in a scene, if you feel that happening and you feel you're being real negative, don't be afraid to apologize in the scene and be like, oh, I'm sorry, I've been in this way. I want to apologize. Tell me more. Like, let me know what's going on here. I want to offer my apology. Sometimes able to do that helps too. Sometimes in shows, it's fun to be like, I'm not in the great mood, so please try to make me laugh in the show. And you tell your scene partners that, and your teammates. So that might help as well. But yeah, and the warm up to me, sometimes as improvisers, we just do a warm up because we feel obligated to, but not inspired by it. So sometimes it's like playing that warm up fast and hardcore, like let's play zip zaps up as fast as we can. Sometimes that helps me focus and get out of those feelings right there. But remember, Laura, everything changes. Everything will pass. That mood passes. It's not like you're going to improvise that way all the time. But if you tell your scene partners before you go in, hey, I'm just feeling like a little blah, it also they'll be able to help with that, so it's not just you there. I talk about One-Eyed Bob, and a guy I knew, and one day, we were talking, he goes, I saw my friend the other day, he goes, how you doing, Bob? And Bob kind of talks like this, and he goes, I'm not doing great. And he goes, yeah, my friend said, don't worry, it'll change. And then I saw my friend the next week. He goes, how you doing, Bob? I go, I'm doing great. And my friend goes, don't worry, it'll change. And I think that's very appropriate. All that stuff changes. Everything in our lives change. So we have to let go of it. Same in an improv scene. Let go of that which does not serve you. I also had a therapist who said once to me, his name's Ron Crouch. And he said, Jay, if you're depressed, be the best depressed you can be. So sometimes if you're feeling upset in a scene, just be the best upset you can be. Try not to control the feelings, but realize they're going to pass. Yeah, I hope that helps with what you were thinking about, Laura. I mean, those are just some things that help me as I go. But anything that can disrupt me being in my head because I'm obsessing over my thoughts, or I'm thinking about a ton of stuff. Anything I can do to disrupt that is great. Yeah, Val, exactly. Practice mindful self-compassion. I mean, that's the biggest thing, is have empathy for yourself and compassion for yourself right there. Yeah, Laura's a nuclear engineer. She's also like, I love playing with Laura because she is also has such a unique take on things. And I did a 10-minute scene with Laura that was just fantastic. And I love it because she just has these great suggestions and great points of view and just unique way of improvising that I love how her brain and her mindset work. It's just so fun to play. Yeah, Jess, thank you. Put on perfume during improv. It helps me separate from the rest of the day. Jess, great advice there. Yeah. Laura, another thing too is yeah, take put on a different shirt, or put on different sweats or pants or something like that, or nice comfy socks. Like, there are several different tools to try and get you out of that situation you're in and then into this present. And that's the big thing, is like, how do we get present? That's why I posted those 5 things, is like, okay. Another thing I've told myself again is like, wait a minute, I'm in no immediate danger. That phrase has helped me a lot during this pandemic right there. Hi, Jason Hader. Less improv during the pandemic because I don't feel the right energy. I mostly just improvise with my group because they do make me happy. I don't want to bring the wrong energy to strangers. Oh, I think that's a great thought right there, Jason, too. And you know what? Like, people also, they're going to think what they want to think. You might be thinking you're bringing great energy to the group, and they might be like offended by that. Or people might be like, oh, why is that guy so positive? You know, but you know, my buddy Dave, you know, Rosowski says, you know, what people think of me is none of my goddamn business. And I think that's helped me out a lot too. Is like, what you think of me? That's none of my business. That's on you, not on me. I can't change the way you think about me. So yeah, so those are just, you know, a couple of things that hopefully give you some more tools, because it's all about tools, not rules. Same with improv. It's all about tools, not rules. You know, and when you're learning from a teacher, they're talking to you about, you know, things they think work, and they are not infallible, nor do they have all the answers, nor are they always right. But if you can take some of these things away and add it to your tool belt, I think that will change the way you improvise. And I think definitely looking at a place from, you know, if the more grateful you are and the more gratitude you have, the less of that negative energy you bring into your scenes right there. But give yourself a break. You, everyone, we're in the middle of a global fucking pandemic right now, and of course there's more anxiety, there's more depression, all of that stuff. Yes, you might be eating more, you might have gained weight. We're in survival mode. You know, I joke, I've gained my COVID-19. I look at myself and I can sit there and go, oh, I look real puffy and pudgy. Yeah, well, because I am, because I don't have as much exercise as I did before, but it's temporary. We are in the middle of something that is, in our lifetimes, we've never experienced. So go easy on yourself. Surround yourself with those people who get you. Surround yourself with those people who have compassion for you and have empathy for you. And when you start saying negative things to yourself, say this: hey, stop talking to my friend like that. So watch that negative self-talk can really start creeping into you believing it, because your brain doesn't know you're being sarcastic. Your brain doesn't know you're joking. Your brain believes it when you say, oh, look, I'm an idiot. Your brain believes that. You might be joking, but that's not something that your brain believes. Your brain believes it's true. And your brain's only focus is one thing: survival. So that's why they look at everything as a threat and things become real negative, is because it's survival. That's why your brain doesn't like to improvise, is because it's the unknown, and there's fear of the unknown. So keep that in mind too. Listen to your soul more than your brain as you go. Awesome. Well, thanks for watching, everyone. Ask me anything about improv. Episode 12. I think this is episode 12. Have a happy holiday for those of you celebrating Kwanzaa, which is coming up on I believe it's the 26th. Happy Kwanzaa for those of you who just celebrated Diwali. Happy holidays, Hanukkah, happy holidays. I know that just ended as well, and Christmas for those who celebrate the 25th, and Boxing Day. Happy Boxing Day, and happy winter solstice. And to everyone out there, have a very safe and healthy holiday season right there. Merry Christmas to all of you. It was so great to see you all. Have a great, happy, and safe holiday. Go easy on yourself. Everything is temporary and it's all going to change. Have a great day, everyone. Okay. Love you all. Bye bye.